welcome once again to my man cave, study, gaming room, I don't know, studio? Should we call it studio? Let's just say, welcome to here, the channel. And I realise it's been a while since I gave you an update on my Peugeot, or, this. I'm hoping I'm pointing in the right direction. It's either here or here, or maybe down here. No, it's there. So my Peugeot Traveller van, which, as all of you will know from the various videos, if you haven't seen them, there's a whole collection of videos on Peugeot and that van. And I suddenly realised, I'd said ages ago I was going to give you an update, but life kind of took over. I've been a bit unwell, I've had holidays, Long story short, I don't have it anymore. So, this very quickly became this, and then shortly after became this. But how? Why? I know I said I would never sell it, because I did think it was unfair passing this problematic piece of words that we won't say on to another person. However, there comes a time when you have to look and say, oh, things are getting difficult. So I'd spoken to the Ombudsman, and I'd had a report in, and I got a response back. The response was quite surprising. You may have noticed a little bit of a jump there. I had to stop and put the Ombudsman's report up on the screen. As many of you will know, I went to the Ombudsman, and some of you will know from my Twitter account that I did partially win that case, and I won the bit that matters. Now, one of the things that Peugeot tried to say to me is, tough luck, it's out of warranty. Now, the problem occurred within warranty. I'm going to be as quick as I can with this, so I'm not waffling for about a 52-hour video. But what the Ombudsman have said is that they believe that because it occurred under warranty and that Peugeot had the vehicle away for extended times to repair, Peugeot should have extended that warranty. So, unfortunately, Peugeot lost in the whole it's not under warranty thing, and the Ombudsman pretty much told them that. He also pointed out, now he didn't hold up the AdBlue consumption, which was the secondary issue anyway, because Peugeot released a later TMO, whatever it's called, TSB, Technical Service Bulletin, saying that, oh well, actually it only does this. Good on you, Peugeot. I didn't really care about the mileage. Well, I did. It was a big issue for me in some respects, but the problem was the vehicle was faulty. So, but this is the good bit. You're going to absolutely love this. Excuse me if I keep turning away. I need to read what's said on the screen behind me. So I explained to the Ombudsman that it was constantly saying it was running out when it wasn't, and in fact, even within that, it didn't know how much it had of AdBlue left in it. So it might say it's running out and it had 16 litres left in an 18.5 litre tank, or an 18.2 litre tank, I think it was. Or it might run out and, oh well, I'm running out, and it had 10 litres left. It didn't know when it was running out. But what was consistent is it had a lot of AdBlue in it when it said it was running out. And when it says it's running out, you can't do anything about it. You have to top it up, otherwise the vehicle just calculates the next 1,500 miles, then won't start. So the Ombudsman allows, obviously, Peugeot to have their say when the evidence is presented to them. And Peugeot responded to the fact that the AdBlue was constantly saying it was running out when it wasn't, with, let's have a look here, but they advised that this is a characteristic, not a fault, with the vehicle, and it is conforming to the product specification. Okay, before I give my thoughts on this, which you may know from me laughing, let me just give you the Ombudsman's thoughts on this. I am very wary of calling such issues as these characteristics rather than faults. He goes on to say that the system was clearly not designed to operate in this way. There's no reasonable explanation why the system should operate in this manner. The warning system should be designed to alert the driver when the vehicle is low on AdBlue. It should not alert the driver the vehicle is low shortly after it's been filled, or when the tank is half full. So basically what the Ombudsman has said is, I've heard you, Peugeot, and yeah, what a load of rubbish. And the Ombudsman has said, yeah, it's a fault. Hurrah! Finally, somebody has stepped up and said, yeah, we agree with you. Now this presents a problem for Peugeot, because obviously the Ombudsman now has said it's a fault. Whereas Peugeot want to tell every owner of Peugeot, and if you're a Peugeot owner out there, take heed, that one of the main characteristics of their vehicles is that they have faults. Because apparently, according to Peugeot, a fault is now called a characteristic. So, car doesn't work? Don't worry, that's a characteristic. Yeah, okay, whatever. So, anyway, long story short, I'm not going to read out everything it says there. It was quite embarrassing for Peugeot. So what did I do next? Well, the Ombudsman offered to Peugeot that they should either themselves buy back the vehicle, or they should facilitate the buyback of the vehicle through the company I bought it through. Now, I didn't buy it on finance. Oops. So there was a problem there, which meant the facilitation was going to be quite difficult. And secondly, why would the company I bought it through want back a faulty vehicle? Who knows? So there was a problem there. But the biggest problem for me was that what the Ombudsman said is they normally, just the way they do it, they take the vehicle, the price that you paid for the vehicle, the amount of miles you've done since you owned the vehicle, many of which of those were done by Peugeot while repairing it. They deduct a certain amount of money per mile done, and what's left is the value of the vehicle at buyback. Okay, right, fine. So I bought that vehicle for 19,000. In fact, 18,995. That means that Peugeot were going to give me £14,000. Now, that's a bit of a sting. But what's worse is that had the vehicle been working and I sold it, at that point in time, looking at Auto Trader and every other website, including Peugeot's own dealerships, that vehicle was worth £19,000. The prices of cars had gone up. And that vehicle, in good condition with that mileage, was still worth. Well, actually, a lot of them were selling for £20,000 to £21,000. So there's no way I was going to accept 14 grand for a car that I could sell, had it been functioning, for the same amount I bought it for. And I haven't had any joy out of it. I've barely driven it. The times I've driven it have been to and from garages or driving perpetually hoping it wouldn't break down. So no, I didn't accept that as a resolution. So I wrote an email back to the Ombudsman, but before I sent it, I sent an email to Peugeot, and I said to them, look, I've got the Ombudsman's report, you'll be fairly aware now that your vehicle is faulty. The Ombudsman has offered a solution I intend to reject, and I don't intend to reject on the basis of the findings, I intend to reject on the basis of the resolution. I am not taking £14,000 for a car that's worth 19. Not a chance. So this is my final offer to you. Either buy the car back at the value I purchased it for, or I will see you in court. And the response was a resounding silence. Good old Peugeot. A resounding silence. Nothing. So I hit send on my rejection to the the Ombudsman, the motoring Ombudsman. And I waited a couple of days to make sure they had it, and it would be disseminated at that point to Peugeot that I had rejected. And then I contacted Peugeot again. And I said to them, right, well now you will be aware that I was not bluffing. And that I have rejected the Ombudsman's report, and I have rejected it on the basis of the resolution. Not the findings, which clearly state your vehicle's faulty, it's still under warranty, and you should be doing something about it. So, at this point, I refer to my earlier offer, you either buy it back for the value I paid for it, or I'll see you in court. And we'll have an argument very publicly about this, and we'll just see how that pans out, because I will walk into court with all the evidence I've amassed over 3.5 years, with some written submissions from AdBlue specialists, and with a Consumer Motor Ombudsman's report that says the vehicle is faulty, the vehicle is under warranty. It's kind of embarrassing that Peugeot have tried to say it is a characteristic. Now I'm going to walk into court with that. I have never in my life, in all my 3.5 years dealing with this company, seen Peugeot answer so fast. The very next day, I got a response telling me they accepted my terms and they would buy back the vehicle. Of course, they're not admitting it's faulty, they're just buying it back. For no reason whatsoever. Just like they bought back someone else I know as Peugeot expert. For no reason whatsoever. So, they offered a buyback. And ultimately that's what happened. And there was a little to and froing because basically I was going on holiday shortly afterwards. I needed to get a new vehicle and they were doing their usual, we've agreed to this, let's drag our heels now and take forever. So I eventually said to them, look, either get off your backsides and sort this, or I'm just going to cancel the offer and I'll see you in court because I'm done. I'm fed up. So we got there. There was a garage in Elgin, and I'm not going to name them because I don't like them as a company. So it's, I'm not saying personal. It's a company. I just don't like how they work or their inability to fix things, to be honest with you. But I will say I am grateful to their service manager who accepted the role from Peugeot of meeting with me, taking the vehicle and handing over the cash, or transferring the cash that Peugeot had transferred to him. So yeah, I am grateful for that. I appreciate it was probably not something he wanted to do, probably not the most comfortable, but we got there, civil and polite. So yeah, he didn't have to do it, so I'm grateful to him for that. Now, the vehicle win. I got my money back. Hurrah! And I bought another vehicle. But what did I buy? And you'll notice on my social media there is nothing about what I bought. And I researched, I dug and I researched, and I was like, oh God, what shall I buy? And then I thought to myself, well, there's a lot of options. There's a Mercedes, there's a VW, massively overpriced, you can tell I didn't get one of them. Ford Transit, no, it's too much like a van. Renault Master. There were a variety of other vans. Then of course there's the Toyotas, the Citroens, all exactly the same car as the Peugeot Traveller, just wrapped in a different badge. Vauxhall, Citroen, Toyota, all the same. Fiat as well, I think, have one that's the same. So I was kind of stuck, because I even looked at big cars. I thought, will I get another Range Rover? I don't like the newer ones, and it's expensive to run. The answer was no. So I ummed and I ahed, and I'm like, I need something that fits my dog crate. I have a custom built, and it wasn't cheap, dog crate. Many of you have seen my dogs in previous videos, the big. And that wasn't cheap. And of course, I'm thinking, well, I need a vehicle that will fit in. The VW, it doesn't fit because of the wheel arches. The Mercedes, it doesn't fit because of the wheel arches. Ford Transit, it fits but slides about in the back of that because they are quite big in the back, and as I've said, it's too much like a van. The same problem with the Renaults. It's just a van and it feels like a van, and I have to do long journeys and I want to feel like I'm driving a car, which for all its faults the Peugeot did feel like. And I've said it before, in terms of the comfort level for the passenger and how it handles, it was a fantastic vehicle. I hesitate to say van because it drives like a car. And I would imagine, I haven't driven the Citroen, but I would imagine the Citroen and Vauxhall variants and the Toyota variant are the same. They drive like a car. They feel more car-like than they do van-like. So that was a good aspect of them. The downside is Peugeot can't make things work. So I ummed and I ahed, and I looked at a load of reviews, and I looked at a load of experiences from people who had vehicles, and eventually I came to a conclusion. Meet the new vehicle, same as the old vehicle. And you're all thinking, what? Are you mad? Yes and no. You see, this new vehicle has the same fault, without a doubt, as the old vehicle. But this has a 2-litre engine and it has a bigger AdBlue tank. So while inevitably it will still say it's running out of AdBlue when it isn't, the distance between it doing that is massively different. So that the 1.5 struggled. It didn't struggle. Driving it felt fine, but the engine was really working to pull that weight of vehicle. So it consumed an awful lot of AdBlue. and it had a small tank, actually it's 18.6 litres I believe it was. So that combined meant that I got, on average, 2,500 miles, sometimes less, before I had to fill it up. And that's no use. You're filling it up all the time. The new one has a 2 litre engine and a 22.6 litre tank, I think. Don't quote me on that. It's certainly over 22 litres. Or it's certainly at least 22 litres. So it's got a bigger tank of AdBlue and a bigger engine, which is not churning out as much NOx. It's not really trying as hard to pull that weight of vehicle, if that makes sense. So having spoken to people who've owned the 2 litres, who are equally unhappy about the fact that it's nothing like what it was advertised as, because Peugeot are a company who will lie to you on a daily basis, it's a better option. So I thought, okay, that's what we're going to have to go for. And at least this time, I'm buying a vehicle where I know what it's likely to do before I buy it. And that was a key point in the last one. I bought the vehicle in good faith, in warranty, and it was supposed to do X amount of miles. And it did a horrendous amount of miles, and the tank continually faulted and just lied. And it was just annoying. This one I bought knowing the fault. But I know that the fault is there, and I know that it will impact me less than its predecessor did, if that makes sense to you. Because the bottom line is, I said this to Peugeot at the start, I would have preferred they fixed the car, because I was already kind of bought into it. I have a custom built dog crate for that vehicle that really only properly fits that vehicle or its siblings. I have roof bars by Thule, which are not cheap. I mean, they're blooming expensive, and given that the Traveller is not made anymore, and that style of roof bar is not going to be bought by people who run expert vans, I would have spent hundreds of pounds. I mean, I think they were about 400 quid. Wasted, because I can't sell them. I'm stuck with them. I bought a full towing kit, which was about £700. I'd have wasted that. Notice I stripped all these things off before I gave the van back. I bought side steps. I'd have lost them. The experts are used as work vans, so very few people want to put side steps on them. And the Peugeot Travellers themselves, like I say, there's not a lot of them. They're now no longer produced, so I've got a set of very expensive side steps that would go in the bin. I can't do anything with them. They're literally scrap metal. I also have a front bar for it that never went on the other car, but it's on this one. So I had thousands of pounds of accessories and thousands of pounds of things that fitted that specific car that would just go in the bin because I can't use them, and I'm very unlikely, no matter how hard I try, to actually sell them. So the decision was made. I had to buy another Peugeot. Fortunately, it hasn't given Peugeot money because I didn't buy it from Peugeot, and I will never take it to a Peugeot dealership. I certainly will never turn around and say, hey, buy a Peugeot. I will spend my life telling people, never touch that company. And it's not just because of faulty vehicles. And let's be honest, that AdBlue tank, if you're driving a 3008 or whatever, they don't change parts. They don't redesign every single part for every single car. They use the same part across a whole range. So these faults are not just in that van. They are in a heck of a lot of Peugeots. And there's a heck of a lot more faults. I'll give you an example. This van had, at point of purchase, another one of Peugeot's known faults, fortunately a lesser one. Within 1 week, the battery died. So I took to the internet and had a bit of research and thought, because the alternator, the current just wasn't right. I had a voltmeter on it and it was just up and down, up and down, up and down. The battery was only intermittently charging, and when the car was off, it was leaking power somewhere and draining the battery. So I contacted the garage that I bought it from, who are absolutely fantastic, and they said, right, get it back in, we'll get it fixed. So I said to them, look, I've done some research, and there's a very well known fault, not just on these vans, but on hundreds of thousands of Peugeots of all different models. The fuse box goes faulty. The fuse box faults, it shorts out, and it basically kills the battery, and it quite often takes the alternator with it. So they went, okay, we'll have a look. So they sent it to their electronics expert, who had a good old rummage and went, yeah, it's the fuse box. Ta-da! Now, I'm not a mechanical genius. I found that just by finding out that thousands of other people have Peugeot fuse boxes that have that fault. So as you can see, reliability in Peugeot, not great. And as I said, it needed a new alternator because the fuse box faulting and shorting took out the alternator, which is why we had this up and down voltage. So yeah, you'll never see me saying, hey, Peugeot, great company, because they just lie. If they're presented with a fault, had they said, look, yep, that's not good, and dealt with it, fine, that happens. But what they did was they consistently lied and lied and lied and lied until the point that the Ombudsman had to tell them, you cannot call your faults a characteristic. And Peugeot, and I know you're watching, you need to change. When you have known faults, you need to acknowledge them. You can't just lie your way through them, because there will always be people like me. Always. And I would encourage anyone who has a Peugeot with a repeat fault to log that fault continually, to log when it started, to gain evidence about it, and to go to the Ombudsman, get a report done on it, and hammer them. Because Peugeot need this. This is the only way Peugeot will admit faults with their vehicles, is you literally take them to the flipping Ombudsman and then take them to court. Because let's be honest, Peugeot only backed down at the last minute when they realised I was not lying and I was taking that Ombudsman's report into a courtroom. At which point it becomes very, very public. Not just me on the internet, not just me moaning at them, not just me driving about with a sign-written van, but it goes into court. And when things go into court, motoring organisations pay attention. It shouldn't be that way. Customers shouldn't have to go to that length. But hey, that's what you get from Peugeot. That's what you get from the parent company Stellantis, who just don't care. So the long shot is, Peugeot's parts are faulty, Peugeot like to lie, and if you're really, really, really sticking, stick to your guns and hit at them and go to the Ombudsman, you can actually force them to back down. And whether Peugeot want to admit it or not, that's the second vehicle I'm aware of, one of these, pretty much the Expert and the Traveller, that Peugeot have bought back for no reason apparently whatsoever, and only when forced with the issue of going to court. So yeah, I'll allow my viewership to make their own decision on that. But it's fairly obvious, Peugeot only bought it back. They didn't just spend, I mean, they must have spent about £70,000 in repairs, in recovery costs, in hire cars, in resprays, to finally get to a stage where they paid 20 grand to buy it back, or 18,995 to buy it back. It's moronic. But their theory is that 18,995 plus the 70 grand, so you're flipping coming close to 100 grand. They've peed away trying to fight this. But their theory is, if it went to court, and the court upheld it, which given the Ombudsman's report, it's a fairly good chance, Peugeot would be stuffed, because now there would be precedent set in court. So to all you out there with Peugeots that are faulty, that are living with a ball ache of a problem, record the problem, get specialist opinion, go to the Ombudsman and hit Peugeot with it. Because at the end of the day, somebody's eventually going to take them to court. And they're going to be stuffed. Because there is going to be a tsunami of people. Judging by the people I speak to on forums and I've spoken to out in the wider world, there is going to be a tsunami of people hitting Peugeot for faulty vehicles. And I hope it happens, because Peugeot, if anyone deserves that, you do. Stellantis, yes, most definitely. And I do know you're watching. The reason I know they're watching is because one of the things in my Ombudsman's report says that they asked me, oh, well, Peugeot have told us you've sold the car. Because they watched my video, which you can see in my history, where I went round, I actually took the car to a Peugeot dealership, all marked up, while looking for another car. And they obviously didn't pay attention, because I clearly stated I was looking for a vehicle to replace my small car, my Volvo. So, I've never at any point on social media, and I have never at any point, other than that YouTube video, to Peugeot said that I was selling any car. But they told the Ombudsman I had sold my car anyway, so it was moot. So I know you watch. And yeah, well done you. Hopefully I don't ever have to speak to you again. But I do have another one of your vehicles, so we'll see how that goes. And we'll see how many faults I can advertise on it for you. So, to everybody out there, don't take crap from them, or any motor manufacturer, or any manufacturer. You have rights. Fight back. Because the only way that we as the consumer will get a fair deal is if you and I fight back. And on that note, I'm going to leave you because this has probably been a longer video than I wanted. And so I'm going to go and do stuff with a smile on my face because I no longer have to spend my days engaging with Stellantis and Peugeot. Ciao for now, folks. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.